Snow drifted across the empty platform, the kind that silences a whole city. On a frozen bench sat a barefoot black woman in a white dress, arms wrapped around herself, shoulders trembling, eyes swollen from a night with no shelter, and no hope left to hold. Across the tracks, the announcement board flickered. No trains, no crowds, only cold. Then, tiny boots crunched through the snow. A little girl in a red coat stopped right in front of her, clutching a small brown paper bag. Her breath came out in soft white clouds. Her eyes, too brave for her age, never blinked. Slowly, she lifted the bag toward the shivering woman, and with a voice that didn't match her size, she whispered, "You have no home, and I have no mother." The world froze. 24 hours earlier, the woman still had a life. Fragile, imperfect, but hers. Her name was Ayla Carter, a former children's counselor who had been holding herself together with part-time shifts, borrowed favors, and hope stretched too thin. But hope snapped the night her landlord taped a final notice to her door. Eviction, immediate. Her hands had shaken as she packed the last of her things. 3 dresses, a photo album, and the worn backpack now sitting by her feet at the station. She told herself she just needed one day to think, to breathe, to find a way back. But the cold had crept in faster than answers. Back in the present, Ayla blinked through her exhaustion, staring at the little girl who still hadn't moved. Snowflakes clung to the child's eyelashes, but she stood firm, determined. "Where are your parents?" Ayla whispered. The girl shook her head. "My mother died." A beat. "And the man behind me? He's not who you think he is." Ayla's breath hitched. Slowly, she lifted her eyes and noticed a dark silhouette standing at the far end of the platform, watching them. Ayla's pulse quickened. The man at the end of the platform stepped closer, slow, deliberate, like someone claiming territory rather than approaching a lost child. His eyes never left the girl. Not once. A train horn echoed in the distance, but no one else was around. No witnesses, no noise, just breath and cold. "Ayla," the girl whispered. "He followed me." Ayla knelt slowly, ignoring how the icy ground bit into her bare knees. The little girl's face was pink from the cold, but her eyes, dark, shining, terrified, held something Ayla recognized instantly, the look of a child trying to be brave for too long. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Ayla whispered, voice trembling. "Leah." Ayla swallowed. "Leah, why did you come to me?" The girl lifted the brown paper bag. "My mom used to give these to people at this station. When they looked sad," she glanced at Ayla's torn dress. "You look the saddest." Ayla's throat tightened. She opened the bag. A tiny sandwich, a hand warmer, and a folded note written in a child's handwriting. "Be kind. Someone needs it," Leah continued. Softly, "Mom said to always help someone who looks like they need a home." Ayla's chest shook. "And you," Leah whispered, touching Ayla's freezing hand. "Look like you have nowhere left to go." Ayla looked over Leah's shoulder. The man had moved closer. Her instinct screamed. "Leah, did he hurt you?" Leah's body flinched. She didn't answer. Alia stood, shielding Leah with her body as the wind sliced through the platform. The man pretended to check his watch, but his eyes never stopped tracking the girl. Alia leaned closer. "Leah, tell me the truth. Do you feel safe with him?" The child's silence was answer enough. Alia tightened her grip on the paper bag. She had nothing. No home, no warmth, no plan. But she had one thing left. Her instinct to protect. "Okay," Ayla whispered, steadying her breath. You're staying with me until we figure this out. I won't leave you. A train rumbled in from the distance, lights slicing through the snow. Leah's small hand found hers. Ayla, please don't let him take me. The choice was made. The arriving train screeched against the rails, doors sliding open with a metallic gasp. Leah tugged Ayla's hand. Please, let's get on. Ayla hesitated, but the man stepped closer, his shadow swallowing the snow. Choice vanished. She pulled Leah aboard just as the doors began to close. The man followed. He slipped onto the train. At the very last second. No ticket, no rush, just a cold certainty in his stride. Passengers barely noticed him, but Leah did. Her tiny fingers crushed Ayla's sleeve. That's him. The man scanned the carriage slowly, row by row, until his eyes locked onto the two of them, and he smiled. Not kindly. The train lurched, gently as it left the station, settling into its steady metallic heartbeat. Ayla tried to coax calm into her breathing, but Leah, pressed against her side, could feel the tremors she hid behind a forced smile. The carriage lights flickered once, reflecting pale halos across the windows. Outside, the world blurred into streaks of winter blue and fading city lights. Inside, the temperature felt oddly colder, like the air itself sensed the danger walking among them. The man, tall, mid-40s, rough stubble, a leather jacket worn thin at the elbows, moved with deliberate slowness, as though savoring the fear he knew he produced. He wasn't in a rush for a seat. He wasn't looking for comfort. He was looking for control, and it was working. A couple near the front straightened up nervously as he passed. A businessman closed his laptop just slightly and pretended not to watch him. A teenage boy pulled off his headphones and tracked the stranger's steps in the reflection of the window rather than dare turn his head. But Ayla watched him directly. She had learned long ago that predators hated eye contact when it came from someone they underestimated. Her chest tightened as she studied his movements, smooth, calculated, almost rehearsed. Whoever he was, this was not a man unfamiliar with intimidation. Leah gripped her sweater again. Ayla, why is he here? Ayla swallowed, the truth building like a stone in her throat. I don't know yet, she whispered, but stay close, no matter what. Leah nodded, though her small shoulders trembled. The man stopped beside an empty seat several rows ahead, ran his hand slowly across the fabric, as though inspecting it for invisible flaws, then moved on. He walked past the luggage racks, pausing briefly to glance up at the overhead cameras. His expression remained unreadable, but the faint curl at the corner of his mouth made Ayla's stomach turn. She recognized that expression, not from this man, but from men like him. Men who pretended patience because cruelty was their true destination. The train's low hum filled the growing silence. A conductor announced the next two stops in a monotone voice that did nothing to ease the tension dissolving through the carriage like smoke. The man reached the middle aisle, close now. Close enough that Ayla could see the faint scar that traced down from his temple to his jawline. He spotted Leah first. His eyes softened, but not in kindness. More like fascination. Then he saw Ayla, and the softness vanished. He stepped closer, the aisle suddenly too narrow, his presence too large. Cold night, he said casually, voice low and sandpaper rough. Ayla forced her reaction still. Colder for some. His eyes glittered. A test, a challenge. He seemed almost pleased she didn't shrink away. What's your destination? He asked. Passengers nearby froze, pretending to mind their own business while leaning in ever so slightly. Ayla didn't answer. He chuckled quietly. Not one for conversation, I see. Leah shifted behind her, small and instinctively protective, as if she sensed the man's attention trying to reach her. Ayla moved subtly, blocking his view. The man tilted his head, noticing. That's your daughter? Ayla's jaw flexed. She's a child. That's all you need to know. The train jolted lightly along the tracks. Somewhere behind them, a metal tray rattled in the dining carriage, but the real impact was invisible. His expression cooled, interest sharpened, and a new layer of tension settled over the row like frost. I like kids, he muttered, not smiling. They're honest. Ayla didn't blink. Leave us alone. There was no fear in her tone this time, only warning. A few seats away, an older woman reached for the emergency alert button, but hovered her finger just above it, too afraid to be the one who escalated the situation. The man leaned in slightly. You remind me of someone, he said softly. Someone who used to run too. Ayla's pulse stumbled. Run. The word pierced her like a memory she wasn't ready for. He smiled, seeing the flicker of emotion he'd been hunting. Don't worry, he murmured. We'll talk again. He stepped back, giving a small mocking nod and continued down the aisle, slowly, deliberately, like the train belonged to him now. Ayla exhaled only when his silhouette disappeared around the bend toward the dining car. But the relief was hollow. Because if there was one thing she knew with absolute certainty, it was this. He wasn't finished, not with her, and definitely not with Leah. The train hissed around the next curve, metal grinding softly beneath them. When the man returned, faster this time, steps sharper, eyes locked only on Ayla and Leah, passengers tensed. Something had shifted. This wasn't curiosity anymore. This was intent. He stopped at their row. That seat's mine, he said, pointing to the empty space beside Ayla, though everyone knew it wasn't. A teenager had been sitting there minutes earlier before fleeing to the back to escape the tension. Ayla kept her voice level. It's unassigned seating. Choose another. His nostrils flared. I said... He leaned in, breath sour, jaw tight. That's my seat. Leah shrank back, fingers twisting Ayla's sleeve. A couple across the aisle pretended to sleep, but their eyes were wide cracks behind lashes. A businessman reached for his phone under the table, recording discreetly. The conductor stood frozen at the far end of the carriage, unsure whether to intervene or pray someone else would. Ayla straightened. If you want a seat, take one. But not here. For a heartbeat, everything in the carriage held still. Even the train seemed to glide in silence. Then the man snapped. His hand shot forward, gripping the top of their seat, yanking it so violently that the metal frame screeched. Leah whimpered. Passengers gasped. Someone whispered, Call security. Ayla rose halfway, shielding the child behind her. Touch her, she said quietly, and you'll regret it. A single sentence. Calm. Steady. That broke the carriage's fear like glass. The man's face twisted, an ugly, simmering rage that came from someplace far older than this train, older than this moment, older than reason itself. The kind of rage people learn, not from life, but from hate. He leaned inches from Ayla's face. You people never learn, do you? He hissed, voice dripping venom. Always sitting where you don't belong. A hush fell over the carriage, an icy, collective inhale. The words were old, familiar, poisonous. Alia felt them land like cold metal against her skin. Not new, not surprising, but still enough to make the world tilt for a moment. Leah curled closer, trembling. Please, stop, the child whispered. The man barked a laugh. Oh, look, it talks. Your little pet talks. A passenger near the window flinched. Another whispered, This is going to get bad. Alia kept her voice low but firm. Step back. Instead, he stepped closer. His arm shot out, grabbing Ayla's wrist with bruising force. The entire row jolted as he yanked her forward. "You think you can talk back to me?" His grip tightened. "You think you can act like you're equal?" Alia didn't cry out. She wouldn't give him that. But pain shot up her arm like fire. Passengers froze in fearful paralysis until a chair scraped loudly from behind. A tall man in a dark overcoat stood. Not rushed, not reckless, but deliberate. His voice cut through the air like a blade. "Let her go." The aggressor turned, annoyed more than threatened. "And who the hell are you?" The newcomer didn't answer immediately. He walked forward slowly, eyes locked on the man's hand, not his face. His presence filled the aisle with a calm, controlled pressure, like someone who didn't need to raise his voice to own the room. Alia heard Leah whisper, "Who is he?" The stranger finally spoke. "My name doesn't matter." He raised his chin slightly. "But I don't tolerate cowards who pick on women and children." A few passengers muttered agreement. Quiet but growing. The aggressor scoffed. "You gonna be a hero? For them?" The stranger exhaled once, long and disappointed. "For anyone being attacked." Then, colder. "Now remove your hand or I'll remove it for you." Alia felt the man's grip tremble. Not from fear, but from the realization he no longer controlled the room. "You don't know who you're messing with," he snapped. The stranger stepped closer, mere inches away, and you don't know who's watching. Phones lifted. Screens glowed. TikTok, Instagram, live streams going up. Dozens of witnesses capturing every moment. The aggressor's eyes darted around. Pressure, exposure, loss of anonymity. He let go of Ayla's wrist. The stranger didn't smile. He simply said, "Sit down." The car fell silent as the aggressor backed away, retreating down the aisle like a wounded predator. Eyes still burning, but legs unsteady. Alia rubbed her wrist. "Pink bruises forming," Leah whispered. "Thank you." The stranger nodded once. "This isn't over," he murmured. "And he's not done." For a few fragile seconds, the train felt calm again. A fragile quiet held together by shaky breaths and stolen glances. But Ayla could feel it. This wasn't finished. Predators don't leave. They circle. The stranger slid into the seat across from her, hands resting calmly on his knees, eyes still scanning the aisle where the aggressor had retreated. "Are you two hurt?" he asked, voice steady, low, almost clinical. Ayla shook her head. But Leah held her wrist tighter, as if afraid even silence might bring danger back. The man nodded once. "Good. Stay alert." Ayla studied him properly now. Not just tall, trained. Not just calm, disciplined. The way he positioned himself, slightly angled toward the aisle. The way his eyes never stopped tracking reflections in the windows. "He wasn't an ordinary passenger. Why did you help us?" Ayla finally asked. He looked at her, and for the first time, the hardness in his face softened. "Because I've seen men like him before, and I've seen what happens when nobody steps in." Leah swallowed. "Is he coming back?" The stranger didn't lie. "Yes." A pulse of fear went through the carriage. Several passengers shifted uneasily, pretending they weren't listening, but hanging on to every word. Alia leaned forward. "Do you know him?" The stranger hesitated. Just a moment. Then, "Yes, not personally, but I know what he is." A chill ran through Ayla's spine. He continued quietly, voice dropping into a tone meant only for them. "He boarded 2 stops ago, followed you from the platform. He wasn't watching you by accident." Alia felt her stomach twist. "You saw that?" "I see everything," he said simply. "It's my job." The weight of that statement hit Ayla like a slow dawn. "Your police?" His lips twitched. Not a smile, not a denial. "Not exactly," Leah whispered. "Are you here to protect us?" He leaned closer, lowering his voice further. "I was already watching him before he noticed you. And if he tries anything again, I won't wait for permission." Alia's breath caught. This wasn't luck. This wasn't chance. This was collision between a hunted child, a desperate woman, and a man who carried secrets heavy enough to bend his posture. Then the stranger's gaze snapped upward. He's coming. The aisle darkened as the aggressor returned. Not rushing, not shouting, but walking with the slow confidence of a man who believed nothing could touch him. This time, he wasn't alone. Two other passengers, bigger, louder, crueler, trailed him with smirks that made Ayla's pulse stumble. The stranger rose instantly. The carriage shifted. Fear thickened like humidity before a storm. The aggressor pointed at Ayla. "You're getting off at the next stop. Both of you." Passengers stiffened. A mother hid her child behind her coat. Someone whispered, "Call security! Call anyone!" The stranger stepped forward, voice dropping into steel. "No one is going anywhere with you." The aggressor chuckled. "Oh, I wasn't asking." Alia pulled Leah close as the train began to slow, its doors about to open into danger. The train screeched as it pulled into the next station, snow swirling under the platform lights. Passengers waiting with hunched shoulders and hurried breath. But inside the carriage, the cold wasn't outside. It was him. The aggressor stood blocking the aisle, flanked by the two men he'd brought with him. Not friends. Not random passengers. Enforcers. Alia felt Leah's heartbeat thudding against her arm, fast, uneven, terrified. The stranger stepped fully into the aisle now, positioning himself between the trio and the two females. His posture sharpened, shoulders set, weight balanced, every muscle ready. The doors slid open with a harsh metallic gasp. People exiting glanced at the confrontation, then hurried away, unwilling to get involved in something that smelled dangerous. The aggressor tilted his head, fury simmering beneath a smirk. "Move out of my way." The stranger didn't. "I said move." Passengers held their breath. The conductor froze at the far end of the car, clutching the radio but unsure if calling for help would make things worse. Slowly, deliberately, the stranger spoke. "I know who you are." A ripple went through the carriage. Fear, confusion, curiosity. The aggressor's eyes narrowed. "You don't know anything." The stranger kept his tone calm, level, almost surgical. 3 months ago, a missing child alert went out in Riverside County. A 7-year-old girl. Vanished. Silence spread like spilled ink. Alia felt her stomach drop. Leah clutched her tighter. The aggressor's jaw twitched. "You're talking nonsense." The stranger didn't blink. One witness saw a man dragging a child toward a white van. The same description. The same coat. The same scar under your jaw. Gasps echoed. Passengers who had been pretending to mind their own business now stared openly, fear knotting their faces. Alia's breath caught. Leah pressed her face into Ayla's side, as if trying to disappear. The stranger continued, voice colder now. "You disappeared right after. No job, no address, no family. Just movement. Town to town, station to station." His eyes sharpened, narrowing into truth. "You target children who look lost, alone, unprotected." Ayla felt chills explode across her skin. The aggressor finally dropped the smirk, and something darker surfaced. A flash of recognition, anger, exposure. "You should stop talking," he growled. The stranger stepped closer. "Or what? You'll do to her." He nodded toward Leah. "What you've done before?" The train shifted, doors chiming softly. Warning they were about to close again. Passengers flinched as the aggressor snapped. "You think because you know my name, I don't need your name," the stranger cut in. "I know your pattern." The two men behind the aggressor stiffened, glancing at each other. Uncertainty cracked their bravado. The stranger lowered his voice further. Every word hit like a hammer. "I've been tracking you for 6 days. A beat. 6 days of watching you follow that child." Alia grabbed Leah's shoulder protectively, pulling her closer, shielding her. "You're lying!" the aggressor shouted. His voice cracked, edged with panic. That rare sound predators make only when they realize the hunt has turned on them. The stranger didn't flinch. "If I were lying," he said softly, "I wouldn't be standing here between you and her." Silence. A deep, thick, trembling silence. The aggressor's mask finally shattered, and the entire carriage now understood. This wasn't a random confrontation. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a hunt, and they were watching the moment the hunter got caught. The station lights blurred past the windows as the train doors slid shut again, sealing everyone inside with a tension so dense it felt like breathing through fabric. Alia held Leah close, feeling the child tremble, not from cold, but from recognition. Somewhere in her memory, some shadow of this man lingered. The aggressor took a single step forward. The stranger matched it, precisely, deliberately. "Back up," the stranger warned. "You have no authority here," the aggressor spat. The stranger finally exhaled, a slow, heavy release that carried years of restraint. "I did once," he murmured. Passengers leaned in. Listening, "I spent 14 years finding lost children, 14 years bringing them home, 14 years staring into the faces of men exactly like you." His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Truth carries its own volume. The aggressor opened his mouth, but the stranger continued. "You think I don't know what fear looks like? Real fear? The fear of a child who's been running for miles, barefoot, hungry, shaking, trying not to remember your voice?" Leah's breathing hitched. Alia swallowed hard. Passengers felt it, every word landing with moral weight, pulling the entire carriage into stillness. The stranger's jaw tightened. "I took an oath," he said softly, "to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That oath doesn't expire just because I left the badge behind." He stepped closer. "The distance between them shrank to inches. You broke children. You hunted them. You stole their peace." A pause, raw, sharp, final. "Not today." The aggressor's facade cracked deeper. His features twitched. Not anger now, exposure. Recognition that the man in front of him wasn't bluffing. One of his accomplices whispered, "Man, we didn't sign up for this." The aggressor snapped, "Shut up!" But the stranger had already taken the room. "We all see you now," he said. No shadows left to hide in. The train lurched suddenly as it picked up speed, a mechanical heartbeat underscoring the moment. The predator finally realized he wasn't the most dangerous man in this carriage. Snow blurred across the windows as the train cut deeper into the night, the carriage vibrating with a low hum, a hum that made every passenger aware they were witnessing a turning point. The aggressor's chest rose and fell too fast now, his bravado thinning like steam on cold glass. His two men shifted behind him, no longer sure if standing close made them safer or more exposed. The stranger angled his body just enough to shield Ayla and Leah, his voice dropping into a low, "Controlled register. Step away from them." "No," the aggressor snapped, though the word wavered. "You think you're some kind of hero? You think—" The stranger didn't let him finish. "You don't understand what's happening," he said, interrupting with quiet dominance. "You're not in control anymore. You haven't been since the moment I stepped into this aisle." Passengers felt it, the shift. Authority moved like a spotlight, leaving the predator in shadow. The aggressor pointed a shaking hand at him. "You're lying about everything. You don't know anything about me." The stranger's eyes remained steady. "I know enough." He took a slow step closer, and the aggressor's accomplices instinctively stepped back, bumping into seats, startling passengers. The stranger continued, "I know you avoided every security camera on the platform." Another step. "I know you changed your code at the previous station." Another. "And I know you were waiting for the right child to panic, the right mother figure to be isolated, the right opportunity." Leah whimpered, burying her face in Ayla's coat. The aggressor barked, Stop talking! But the stranger didn't. He advanced until the predator's back hit the end of the aisle. A corner. You've done this before, the stranger said, and you were going to do it again. Phones rose again around the carriage. Passengers were no longer hiding. They were documenting, eyes sharp, voices silent, hearts pounding. You don't scare me, the aggressor muttered, though sweat glimmered at his temple. You are scared, the stranger replied softly. Because for the first time, the one watching you isn't afraid. Then he leaned in, speaking just loud enough for the whole car to hear. You followed the wrong child today, the aggressor's breath hitched. You followed the one child who had someone willing to stand. Between you and her, a beat. And you followed her onto a train with witnesses. Dozens of phones shifted toward him, and a man who knows every trick you use. The aggressor swallowed hard. Eyes darting in desperation, the stranger straightened. This is the end of your hunt. The predator finally looked like prey. The train shuddered as it entered a long tunnel, plunging the carriage into dim, flickering light, a strobe of shadow and revelation. The aggressor tried to lift his chin, tried to reclaim the dominance slipping through his fingers, but the stranger's presence pressed on him like a weight. Passengers shifted, widening the circle around the confrontation. No one spoke. No one intervened. They simply watched a truth they had all sensed, but never named. The stranger stepped forward, slow and deliberate. Do you want to know how I found you? He asked quietly. The aggressor clenched his jaw. I didn't ask. You didn't have to. Another step. You always target crowded places. Places with noise, with confusion, with movement that gives you cover. The aggressor's eyes darted around, searching faces for support, finding only disgust. You picked Leah because she was alone for 2 minutes, the stranger continued. Because Ayla stepped away to buy water. Because you assumed the child of a vulnerable black woman would have no one watching. A tremor ran up the aggressor's spine. The stranger wasn't guessing. He was quoting a pattern. You followed them through the station, he said. You rehearsed the approach. You waited until Ayla's hands were full. You waited for panic. He paused. And you got greedy. The aggressor's breath hitched. Passengers leaned in closer, their phones recording every word. You thought pushing her, kicking her would break her down faster, the stranger said, voice low but razor sharp. That's what you rely on, isn't it? Shock, fear, submission. The aggressor snapped. You don't know me. The stranger didn't blink. I know your record. A ripple ran through the entire carriage. The aggressor froze. My record? Yes. The stranger's voice stayed calm, controlled, surgical. You were reported twice at East Line Terminal for following unaccompanied minors. A beat. You were caught on camera in Northgate Mall trailing a 9-year-old girl until security intervened. And then, 3 months ago, a woman filed a complaint after you waited outside a daycare for 45 minutes. Passengers gasped. Recoiling, the aggressor's face drained of color. You're lying, he spat, but there was no strength behind the words. The stranger remained still. I've spent the last year tracking men who prey on children. It's my job to study the ones who blend in, the ones who hide behind crowds, behind busyness, behind uniforms, behind normalcy. A long silence fell. You made one mistake tonight, the stranger said softly. The aggressor swallowed. What mistake? You went after the wrong woman. Ayla stared at him, frozen, her arms around Leah. You thought she was alone, the stranger continued. You thought she was powerless. You thought she wouldn't fight. And you thought no one would notice a black woman begging, while a man pretended to help a scared child. He leaned forward just enough that the aggressor flinched. You thought the world would look away. The train lights flickered again, this time illuminating the aggressor's fear like an X-ray. But I wasn't looking. Away, the stranger said. I saw you the moment you stepped off the escalator. I saw you circle twice behind them. I saw you follow them onto this train without a ticket. Gasps burst across the carriage. You've been on my watch list for months. The aggressor trembled now, sweat forming at his brow. Breath shallow, panic rising like smoke. The stranger straightened fully. And tonight? Your luck ran out. The train burst from the tunnel into bright afternoon light, a stark, merciless illumination that made every detail impossible to hide. The aggressor blinked rapidly, disoriented, his confidence shattering with each passing second. Passengers shifted, creating a wider ring around him, no longer pretending to be neutral spectators. Every phone lens pointed directly at him, recording his unraveling in real time. The stranger lifted a small badge from his coat pocket. Not with theatrics, not with force. Just quiet, cold inevitability. I'm Senior Investigator Hale, he said. Child Protection and Missing Minors Division. Federal jurisdiction. A collective gasp rippled across the carriage. Ayla's hand tightened around Leah's shoulder. Leah exhaled the tiniest breath, a tremor of relief. The aggressor stumbled backward, bumping into a pole. That's not real. You're bluffing. Investigator Hale scanned his badge under the nearest emergency assist lamp. The embedded chip blinked green. It's real, the conductor whispered from behind the crowd, eyes wide. My God, he's federal. Hale didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. You've been on a passive watch file for 8 months, he said. Multiple pattern matches, consistent behaviors, repetition of travel routes, altered walk cycles around minors. Tonight, you crossed the threshold from surveillance to intervention. The aggressor shook his head violently. This is harassment. I didn't do anything. The kid, she misunderstood. Hale cut him off gently. No, she didn't misunderstand. He tapped his phone twice. A file opened. A series of images appeared. Security stills, time-stamped. The same man. The same behavior. Different children. Hale turned the screen outward. The entire train recoiled. You are caught in 5 separate terminals, Hale said, twice trailing alone girls, once positioning yourself behind a stroller. And last month you followed an 11-year-old boy into a restroom corridor. The aggressor's voice cracked. I didn't hurt anyone. Another tap. Another file. This time written statements. A trembling woman's handwriting. He waited outside my daycare for nearly an hour. Watching. Another. My daughter said he tried to offer her candy. Another. He followed us onto a train. I pretended to get off early and ran. Each word landed like a stone on his chest. Hale stepped closer. You didn't physically attack anyone yet. Predators like you rarely start with violence. It begins with testing, with proximity, with seeing how close you can get before someone notices. Passengers murmured their disgust. You targeted Ayla, Hale continued, nodding toward her, a black woman traveling alone with a child. You thought no one would intervene. You've built your habits around people you assume society undervalues. The aggressor's knees shook visibly. You looked away for 1 second, Hale said, and that's when your entire world collapsed. Just then, the train began slowing, the automated announcement chiming. Next station, Central Crossing. Hale lifted his wrist mic. This is Investigator Hale. I need 2 units at Central Crossing platform. Subject, male, mid-40s, blue windbreaker, black jeans. Classification, active detain. Charges pending review under Section 14C. Child endangerment patterns and predatory surveillance protocol. The aggressor's panic finally erupted. No, 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 no. You can't take me. I didn't touch her. I didn't. You groomed proximity, Hale said calmly. That is enough. As the train neared the station, the carriage erupted into movement. Passengers stepped aside in perfect unison, forming a path from the aggressor to the exit, a corridor of judgment. He tried another tactic, Listen, listen, maybe I made mistakes, but I can explain. I'm not, I'm not who you think. You're exactly who I think, Hale replied. And tonight you slipped. Predators don't fear morality. They fear exposure. The train doors hissed open. Two uniformed officers waited on the platform. Hale nodded toward them. The aggressor made one last desperate grab, not to escape, but to erase evidence. Reaching for a passenger's phone, Ayla pulled Leah back as officers surged forward. The takedown was swift, controlled, decisive. The cuffs clicked around his wrists. The aggressor screamed curses as he was dragged backward onto the platform. Not a single person looked away, not even Leah. Hale exhaled slowly, turning toward Ayla and the little girl tucked against her side. "It's over," he said softly. "Not yet," Ayla whispered. Her trembling voice carried more truth than anyone expected. Ayla didn't move. Even after the aggressor was dragged off the platform, even after the doors closed and the train began pulling away, she stood frozen, one arm around Leah, the other trembling at her side. Hale noticed instantly. Fear didn't leave people that slowly unless something bigger was still beneath the surface. He crouched down beside her, voice low, gentle, measured. "Ayla, what isn't over?" Leah buried her face into Ayla's coat. The small girl's shoulders shook, not from tears, but from holding something in. Something heavy. Ayla inhaled shakily. "The man you arrested? He wasn't the one who first approached her." The words dropped like ice. Hale's senses sharpened instantly. "Someone else?" he asked quietly. Ayla nodded. He was watching her, but he wasn't the one who spoke to her at the station. Leah finally lifted her face, eyes wide, red, frightened. "He told me to wait for him," she whispered, "in the hallway behind the lockers. He said it was a secret game." Hale's stomach tightened. "A second predator? Or something worse, a coordinated pattern. Did you see him clearly?" Hale asked the girl gently. Leah hesitated. Ayla steadied her. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe here." The child nodded. He had a blue coat and a gray cap and he smelled like the old stairs. Hale froze. The old stairs. Every station's forgotten corner. Low traffic. No cameras. A perfect hunting ground for people who rely on shadows. A tremor pulsed across the train. Ayla gripped the pole, finally letting the truth spill. "I didn't say anything earlier because I couldn't be sure. I thought maybe I imagined it." She swallowed hard. But when that man tried to pull her, she screamed the same way she screamed at the station. Hale's thoughts raced. If there was a second man, one more methodical, more careful, the arrest they just made was only the surface layer. The real threat might still be out there. "Leah," he said softly. "Did he say anything else?" The girl nodded slowly. "He said he'd come back on this train. Because this one is the quietest." Hale's pulse slammed in his ears. A second predator. Same train line. Same carriage type. He stood abruptly, passengers startled at the sudden movement. But Hale didn't have time to calm them. He pressed his wrist mic again, this time with urgency. "Dispatch. This is Investigator Hale requesting immediate sweep of all carriages ahead and behind ours. Potential coordinated offender? Description incoming." Ayla clutched Leah tightly. "What do we do?" she whispered. Hale scanned the carriage door windows, his instincts coiling like tightened wire. "You stay behind me," he said. "Both of you. Don't move unless I tell you. If he's on this train—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Every passenger felt the air change, from relief to dread in one single heartbeat. The train carried on through the city. But the air inside Carriage 7 had transformed into something tight, electric, and almost suffocating. Every sound felt amplified. A zipper, a cough, a shoe sliding across the floor. Ayla held Leah so close the little girl's ear was pressed against her heartbeat. But still, Ayla's eyes darted from one end of the carriage to the other. Instinct, Hale thought. Motherhood sharpened into radar. Hale moved toward the connecting door between carriages, one hand subtly brushing his coat where his concealed badge and tools were stored. He didn't draw anything, not yet. No sudden movements. Predators relied on shadows. They bolted when spotlights hit them too early. At the doorway, Hale paused. He listened. Carriage 8 was quieter. Too quiet. He keyed his wrist mic. "Dispatch, confirm sweep team ETA. 6 minutes," the voice crackled back. "Nearest pair boarding at Central Crossing, moving toward your carriage." 6 minutes. A lifetime when a child had already been targeted twice. Hale cracked the door open. A long metallic squeal. He winced. Heads in carriage 8 turned. He stepped inside slowly. Passengers watched him with confused caution. Some recognized him from the takedown earlier. Others simply registered authority and stepped aside. Hale's eyes scanned everyone. A businessman in a navy suit. A teenage couple sharing earbuds. A woman knitting something purple. A man sleeping with his hood up and, at the far end, a figure in a gray cap. Gray cap Hale's chest clenched. The man sat stiffly, staring out the window but not at the passing scenery. His reflection watching Hale. Approach tap, pause, tap, pause. The man's index finger drummed his knee with a rhythm too controlled. Not nervousness, timing, preparation. Hale walked slowly down the aisle, seat by seat. He forced himself not to look straight at the suspect. Predators studying patterns always flinched when they felt recognized. Halfway there, Hale's radio buzzed softly. "Investigator, units are now in carriage 10, 2 minutes from 7. He didn't respond. Not verbally. Instead, he altered his pace by half a step. That was all it took. The man in the gray cap turned ever so slightly, a fraction of an inch, just enough to watch Hale in his peripheral. That movement told Hale everything. This one was not like the first man. This one was deliberate, measured, silent, a planner. Hale reached the last 3 rows before the man. He still didn't look directly at him. Instead, "Sir," Hale said to a woman sitting 2 rows ahead, "your bag is open. Just letting you know." The woman blinked in confusion. Her bag was completely zipped, but the move had a purpose. The gray cap man reacted. A tiny twitch. He shifted his foot, positioning, not fleeing, not hiding, positioning. He expected confrontation. Hale finally stopped at the empty seat across the aisle. He turned his head, slowly, letting the truth drop between them. "You spoke to a child at the station. Today." A micro-expression flickered across the man's face, too fast for untrained eyes. But Hale saw it. Recognition, calculation, then a mask sliding back into place. "I speak to many children," the man replied calmly. Most smile back. A chill crawled up Hale's spine. This one was worse. He wasn't sloppy like the first man. He was confident, experienced Ayla's. Whispered panic suddenly made sense. "These many children," Hale said, tone leveled with steel. "Do they all get asked to meet in hallways without cameras?" The man tilted his head. A faint, unsettling smile curved at the corner of his mouth. "You shouldn't believe everything frightened mothers say." Hale didn't blink. "And I shouldn't believe everything their daughters say either." The man's fingers paused mid-tap. Silence pressed in. Finally, the man exhaled through his nose, a soft, dismissive sound. "You're wasting time. The one you arrested, he's unstable. That type always misleads investigators." "Misleads?" Hale echoed. "Yes," the man said, leaning forward slightly. "They distract you. Make you chase shadows so you never see the real threat." Hale's pulse pounded. "And the real threat is you?" he said quietly, a long pause. Then, with unnerving calm, the man nodded once, a single, precise nod. My stop is next, he said. You should stay out of my way. Hale lowered his voice, letting each word cut. You approached a child. You made her a target, and you came onto this train to finish something. The man's eyes flicked sideways. Toward carriage 7, toward Ayla, toward Leah. Hale's heart slammed. He stepped closer, voice razor sharp. You're not going anywhere. That was the moment everything detonated. The man lunged, not away, but forward. A predator attacking, not fleeing. He slammed his shoulder into Hale's chest, shoving him back 2 steps. Passengers screamed. Someone dropped a phone. The train jolted slightly as if reacting to the chaos inside it. Hale grabbed the man's arm, twisting hard. But the man moved with terrifying speed. Slipping free with practiced precision, he bolted toward the connecting door, toward Ayla, toward Leah. Hale sprinted. Carriage 8 exploded into panic. The gray-cap man reached the door, yanking it open, the metal groaning under the force. Hale slammed into him, the two crashing into the doorway frame. The man snarled, low and animalistic. You shouldn't have interfered. Hale pinned his arm. But the man twisted sideways, slippery like smoke, and tore free again. He slipped into carriage 7. Hale's blood turned to ice, like Ayla. The train entered a tunnel again, lights flickering into darkness, then dim gold, then sharp white. Hale burst through the doorway and froze. Passengers were standing, backed away, forming a corridor of fear exactly like before. But in the middle, the man in the gray cap was already there, standing less than 4 feet from Leah. Ayla stepped in front of her daughter, shaking, arms spread wide. Don't you touch her! The man smiled. Cold, calm, certain. Step aside, he whispered. The tunnel swallowed the train, again plunging everything into a flickering storm of darkness and fractured light. Every flash illuminated. A different snapshot. The predator's cold smile. Isla's trembling stance, Leah's wide, shaking eyes. Hale sprinting forward like a man tearing through time itself. The passengers held their breath as if oxygen might break the fragile moment holding reality together. The man in the gray cap took a single step. Closer. Ayla didn't move. Mother's fear had crystallized into something unbreakable. You're not taking her, she whispered. Her voice shook, but her stance didn't. The predator tilted his head. Move. Another step, another flicker, another inch stolen. Hale's voice tore through the aisle. A roar carved from instinct. Stop! The gray cap man didn't freeze, didn't flinch, didn't even turn. He moved. Fast, a blur of motion lunging toward Ayla and Leah, but Hale was faster. He hit the man mid-lunge, the impact echoing through the train like a collapsing steel beam. The two slammed into the center aisle, bodies twisting, elbows scraping metal, fists swinging in wild, brutal arcs. Passengers screamed and scattered. Ayla pulled Leah backward, shielding her with her entire body. Hale pinned the man by the wrist, but the predator twisted his body with uncanny agility, throwing Hale off balance. He grabbed the nearest weapon he could find, a folded metal armrest released during the struggle, a jagged, improvised blade. He swung. Hale ducked, the metal slicing the air above his cheek. He felt the wind of it. 1 inch higher, and it would have opened his face. The train rattled violently on the tracks, amplifying every movement like a war drum. The man swung again, a wide, reckless arc. Hale blocked, grabbed the attacker's forearm, twisted hard, a crack, a howl. The metal armrest clattered to the floor. Passengers gasped. The predator tried to bolt, shoving toward the door again, toward Leah. But the moment he turned, Hale grabbed the back of his collar and yanked with the full force of every instinct he'd ever developed. The man hit the floor, hard. Hale cuffed one wrist. The man kicked back viciously, catching Hale in the ribs. But Hale didn't let go. He rolled, pinned the attacker's leg, locked the second cuff, and twisted until, click, both wrists restrained. Silence crashed into the carriage, heavy, shaking, alive. Hale knelt there for a moment, chest heaving, hands trembling from the adrenaline surge. Two predators. One night, one train. Ayla didn't move until he lifted his head. The tremor in her lip dissolved into pure relief. He nodded. It's over. This time. It truly was. The police arrive. The train screeched into the next station. Doors burst open. 4 officers stormed aboard. Their expressions shifted instantly when they saw the unconscious man on the floor. Hale rose slowly, pulling his badge free. 2 suspects tonight. First already in custody. This one, primary threat. Charges: attempted abduction, predatory enticement, physical assault, coordinated stalking behavior. 2 officers grabbed the predator. Another took photos. The 4th spoke quietly into his radio, reporting the apprehension. Ayla held Leah, both shaking. Hale crouched down, eyes soft now. You were incredibly brave, he said. To both of you, Leah whispered. Is he gone? Hale smiled gently. He'll never come near you again? Ayla's eyes filled with tears. Anger, grief, and profound relief all tangled together. Thank you, she whispered. I thought no one would believe us. Hale shook his head. I believed you the moment you looked afraid. A quiet station and a new truth. The police escorted the predator away. Passengers slowly filtered off the train, talking in hushed, stunned tones. Some approached Ayla with supportive nods. Others placed gentle hands on her arm. But one woman spoke what everyone felt. You saved your child, she whispered. You're a hero, Ayla shook her head. I'm just a mother, Hale corrected her quietly. No, you fought when most freeze. You protected her when most crumble. You trusted your instincts even when fear tried to bury them. Ayla looked down at Leah, her little girl clutching her hand with the fragile trust of someone who had seen danger far too young. She saved me too, Ayla whispered. If she hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known. Hale stood beside them. Children speak truth more clearly than adults. It's just that adults forget how to listen. The investigation. Wyden's Hale's phone buzzed. He stepped aside. Go ahead, a voice crackled back. Investigator Hale, we've reviewed footage from 3 stations. We found him on earlier trains. Same coat, same hat, same pattern. Hale exhaled sharply. What about accomplices? That's the thing. The voice paused. We don't think the first man was his partner. We think he was bait. Hale froze. Bait? Yes, used to distract parents, to create panic, while the real offender approached from the opposite direction. Hale turned slowly toward Ayla and Leah. The truth hit him like a blow. Tonight wasn't an accident. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't chaos. It was a tactic, a coordinated pattern used by predators to create the perfect storm. But Ayla had shattered the pattern by refusing to freeze, and Leah had shattered it by speaking the truth. Hale hung up, jaw tight. Ayla noticed instantly. What is it? She asked quietly. Hale didn't sugarcoat it. These men weren't working together, but they were using the same hunting technique. Ayla's breath caught. We were targeted twice? Hale nodded. Yes, and you survived both. Ayla held Leah closer. The child laid her head against her mother's chest, eyes closing in safe exhaustion. The train that changed everything as the platform emptied. Hale stood with Ayla and Leah while emergency teams finished their reports. The conductor approached them, eyes soft, voice trembling. "I've worked trains for 29 years," he said, "and I've never seen a child this brave, or a mother this fierce." Ayla blinked fast, trying not to cry. "She shouldn't have had to be brave," she whispered. "No," Hale agreed, "but she was. And because she was, you both made it out." The final moment. The city outside was just returning to normal. Honking cars, neon signs, scattered conversations. But inside that station, time felt still, safe. Ayla bent down, kissed Leah's forehead, and whispered, "You have a home, and you have a mother, and I am never letting go." Leah wrapped her small arms around her tightly. Hale stepped back, letting them breathe, but Ayla turned. "Will we see you again?" she asked. Hale smiled softly. "You'll see me on every train you ride, every station you pass, every crowd you walk through." She frowned in confusion, and he said, "Because once I know a child is in danger, I never stop watching." Ayla's eyes softened with gratitude deeper than words. "Thank you," she whispered. Hale nodded once, then turned away into the neon glow. The station swallowed him, but the safety he left behind stayed like a shield around them, and Leah never forgot the man who proved that there are strangers who watch the world. Not to harm, but to protect.